So, welcome back, everyone, to Chi Chats. And we have a special guest today. Do you want to introduce yourself really briefly? A little bit your name, who you are, what you do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Chi, so much for inviting me to be on your platform to talk about self love and growth and healing and all of the things. I am Maurica. My brand is Maurica's Catalog, and I have a YouTube channel, working on a blog, working on merch, but the main thing is just creating content around self love, healing, self care, and just how to apply self love to everyday tasks and routines. My 9 to 5, I'm a digital marketing associate for a nonprofit organization. So that's my 9 to 5. And Marcus Catalog is my hustle. And I wouldn't even call it a hustle, but it's my thing. It's my baby. It's my business, my budding business, if you will.
Oh,
Um,
I
yeah.
love that. How long have you been doing Marika's catalog?
Ah, see, that's tricky.
I feel that.
That is tricky because I started in, I believe, 2020.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think I started in 2020. I started the YouTube channel in 21. Um,
Okay.
and I've just been building from there. So that's why I say it's tricky because I'm like, I don't feel like I'm a full business yet, but I'm working on it. Like I guess you can say I'm a brand. I need to say that with confidence. It is my brand. But I each year I continue to grow. I get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I guess what's that?
It is your brand, girl. It is. I know it's hard though. It's hard to like claim that because there's a lot of weight that comes with claiming that.
Yeah, so I guess 3 years. I'll say 3 years.
Okay, okay, I love it for you. So I have to ask this just in general. This isn't one of the like interview questions I have, but I'm gonna assume the brand color is pink because it seems like you live like it is a part of your everyday life.
Yes. Okay, so let me set the record straight. Not my favorite color. Um,
Really? Okay.
no, people often think that pink is my favorite color because I got the pink hair. My brand is pink. I'm always rocking pink. Pink is not my favorite color. It's becoming a favorite color of mine, but it's not my favorite color. The reason why my brand is pink and I colored my hair pink is because pink is the color of self-love, people. Pink is the color of self-love. So that is why the brand is pink. My brand colors are pink. My hair is pink. And this was a bold move. 'Cause I'm like, I mean, it'll be easy to identify me as the self love girl because I have the pink hair. So I'm like, forget it. Can I cuss on here? Do you mind cursing?
Yeah. No, go for it. I don't. I don't
I'm
care.
like, I don't know if people are iffy about that. I'm just like, fuck it. We gonna dye pink hair. And shout out to my hairstylist because I sat down in her chair. I had orange at the time. I sat down in her chair and I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. She was like, you sure? I'm like, yeah. She's like, no, girl, you said you want to do something different. You trying to get out of your comfort zone. You doing pink. So she actually pushed me to do that. And I love my hairdresser because she's just a dope person and she's a dope stylist, but she's just a dope person in general. She's always, pouring into her clients because I always receive something from her when I'm in her chair. And in that moment, she's just like, no, you doing it. And I'm glad that she did it because the pink hair is my favorite. I've had so many different colors, but the pink hair is my favorite. And so, yes, my brand is pink. I rock pink because pink is the color of self love and it's for branding purposes. And I also wanted to radiate love
Okay.
in everything that I do from just being in a room, being online through my brand. I just want to radiate love and inspire people to love others and to love themselves. So, that's what the pink is all about.
That's a really good lesson. Aw, see, yeah, Laura. You can tell me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but it seems like your like reflection on the brand put them in their feels a little bit. Welcome to the chat. But
Hi.
I also love the pink for you. And it is memorable. I will tell you that. Like whenever I see any of your posts, I know it's you off the bat.
Yes, that's the goal. That is the goal. That is the goal. I'm like, I need this to stand out. So thank you for saying that because I'm like, I don't know because there are other pink brands out there. But yeah,
I feel like you have a very specific pink though. Like it's because I've seen a lot of maybe light pink, but the type of pink that you have is so vibrant. It's almost like close to the color that Barbie is, but that color is also very memorable. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah. I
but
would
it's
have
not the same as Barbie pink though.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
I
want Barbie pink. I'm like, Barbie pink is a little too girly for me. Like,
I
no.
love that though. And hopefully other people identify with it too, regardless of gender, because color has nothing to do with gender. Let me just put that out there to all of you out there right now. The pink feeling, the self-love feeling is for everybody, but
Yes.
I know specifically women, we have a difficult time with it.
Uh-oh, I lost the volume.
Oh,
Oh,
is
there you
it
go. You're back.
okay? Yeah, if we have any technical difficulties throughout, if you notice them or if anybody watching notices them, please tell me and I'll try and troubleshoot.
Someone asked, "Are you a psychologist? You have a mental health tag." Is that question for me or for you?
I don't know. Laura, are you asking or who are you asking or are you asking both of us? I guess we're having a mental health conversation, but I
Uh,
am not a psychologist. I think I put under this stream tagged it as a mental health topic.
oh, okay. I mean, self love is a mental health topic, but
Fact.
no, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. I do have a therapist, but I'm not a therapist.
I miss my therapist. I feel that. And hopefully we get to talk about that a little bit too. I think that one of the questions I have for you throughout the show is going to be about that. But in general, before we get into all the things, before we get into self love, before we talk like really deeply into Maurica's catalog, my first question for you is how are you doing really? And I know we like lightly touched on that a little bit before, but yeah, how are you really? Like, not just like, oh, I'm good, but like, is life great?
No.
Life.
Hey y'all, thank you. I decided to keep my IG live on. Okay,
Okay.
how am I doing? I'm a mixture of things. I've learned over throughout this journey, I've learned that two things can be true at once. And two
Mm,
things can coexist. So I'm a mixture, like I'm good. I'm in a good space. I'm in a great space. I think I mentioned this earlier, like there's a lot of pieces that are happening all at once. And
mm,
so I am just trying to be mindful of where I'm spending my energy and my time and trying not to be overwhelmed. I'm not overwhelmed at the moment, but it's like a mixture of like excitement but also anxiety.
mm.
Courage but also fear. And so it's like this battle, if you will. Cause I'm like, yes, let's go. Like it's June 1st. Just dropped the teaser for my website, and I had to like push myself to do that. So I'm good, but at the same time, I'm just like, ah, it's happening. I'm doing the things. But all in all, I am good, and I'm not just saying that because I'm live, but I'm in a really good space.
Okay. I definitely get that. And I can really empathize with that feeling. And I feel like people don't talk about that enough. So it's really awesome to talk to you right now because I know you're growing really rapidly. Congratulations on 10,000 followers, I believe, on TikTok. Is that
Yes.
right? Yeah, congratulations on that. But
Thank you.
a lot of the time when we hear people's stories, it'll be either like the before or the after. You know, it'll be like when they're a child and, or like where the inspiration comes from, or you see them when they've already become like really well known names and things like that, but that in between space,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of feelings and a lot of work and a lot of energy that goes into that space. And I feel like that's kind of what you describe that you're in. Like a lot of good things are happening, but those good things aren't necessarily always easy things. They can still be overwhelming things. And nobody really talks about them. And I feel like that's where people feel like things are overnight successes, because they're just like, it sounds like it just magically happened, where it's like, no, it's a process. And there were days where there were still good days in between and there were bad days in between. And
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah,
That
but
part.
that's awesome to hear though. I'm glad that you're doing good, and I'm glad that you're starting to feel like you found your motion, your groove with things.
Mhm.
So, could you tell me a little bit more about what it is that you do in both roles? Because I know you have the 9 to 5 role and then you have Maurica's catalog. Like, what are you do in both of those roles, and like, how did you get into them?
Yeah, okay. I'll start with my 9 to 5 because it's just like it's all I'm gonna just say it's all guys. So I am a digital, as I mentioned before, I'm a digital marketing associate for a nonprofit organization. And I started off in a different role prior, like before the pandemic. I was a college access advisor. So we're a college access organization where we help students get to college and graduate from college.
Okay.
Um, and so I was a college access advisor, and then when COVID hit, I was already our social media liaison, working with the outside marketing company. And it's funny because I put that one of my skill sets is social media marketing. I hadn't had any experience in that, but because I love social media, and I've been like into social media since college. And so because of the books that I read and just my own personal experience and the things that I've learned, like I felt confident enough to put that skill on my resume. And from there, like the director of the organization, she mentioned me being the social media liaison. And from there, I'm just like, I mean, I kind of do this better than them. So why not, make me the full-time social media person? And after having that conversation, just, taking a leap of faith, and she was like, "Okay, let's do it." And so from there I became the digital marketing. I'm more so I consider myself like a social media marketing coordinator because I
Okay.
coordinate all of the content for the organization, and I create the content, I edit it, I coordinate all of the filming and things of that nature. So that's how I got into that. It was a mixture of faith and also just confidence and belief in myself and what I was able to bring to the table,
Mm.
even without having that real experience, if you will. And then with Maurica's catalog, that started because I was asked a question. I was
Okay.
asked the question, what is your greatest pain point? What has been your greatest pain point in life? And it was just like word vomit. And I said, loving myself. I was on a call with strangers and I said, loving myself. And after I said it, I was instantly embarrassed because I'm like, I just outed myself in front of people that I don't know. But I'm grateful that I did because that helped me to figure out what Marika's catalog was even about.
Mm.
From there, it's really just my journey. I wanted to create a space where I can share my own life lessons, things that are helping me on my journey. Because we all have our own catalogs to life. Like you have your own catalog to your life. I have my own catalog. It's just like artists. You mentioned an artist like Beyonce's catalog. Like her
Mhm.
catalog is her albums. But my catalog is just my self love journey, my life journey, and the things that have helped me to grow, to heal, to become my own it girl, because that's the motto for America's Catalog: become your own it girl. And so, like I said, I've just been building as I learn more, as I grow, and just as I create more, more ideas are deposited, and I just continue to produce what
Mhm.
um, my ideas, and just go from there. So that's how I got started with both.
That was beautiful. Oh my God. I felt that. I felt moved by the story. Both of those, like both ends of it, because it's funny, your story with getting into the nonprofit, your 9 to 5 job sounds like an example of you understanding your value, which is a part of self love, and like holding to that value, and enforcing that, and the way that that brings good things into your life. And sometimes that can be like work, and sometimes that can be like people, sometimes that can be like opportunities. So it's beautiful to see like how you have that space in your life, which is one area where you enforced your value, and then have this other space, Maurica's catalog, to teach people about what you're learning as you're learning it, because that is a very good conversation that we don't have enough, is the process of loving yourself. And I'm sure a lot of people feel the same.
It's a journey. I'm like, I'm learning. I'm like, self love is not a one and done thing. I think a lot of times on social media, it feels like, or it seems like, a one and done thing, and people equate self love with self care. Like, you go get your hair done, your nails, that's self love too. But like, the internal work is what I am more focused on. Like, yes, the external is important, but also the internal. And I think sometimes people leave out the internal work that is necessary on this journey. But self love is a journey. I just say it's a life journey now. Like, it's just a part of life.
I agree. I agree. Definitely having going through my own personal journey, my own catalog, I definitely can resonate with that. And it's still a process, every day. Some days are better, some years are better, some weeks are better than others. That process. I don't feel like it's ever always one and done, kind of like what you were saying.
It's never ending.
Yeah.
Because as humans, we're always evolving. Like, we are always going through a journey, whether it's a positive journey, or I don't want to say negative, but just like a journey of growth, a growth
Mhm.
journey, if you will. We're always evolving, and if you're not evolving, then that's a problem as well, because
Mhm.
we're meant to evolve. No one is meant to stay stuck in one space their entire lives. So the self work needs to be done in that circumstance as well.
I feel that. I agree. That's so funny you say that, because this season of Chi Chats is actually the season of evolution. Like, that is the title of this whole and
Yes.
the whole conversation that I'm trying to have. And I hope that we have both, like in these streams and in the content that's created and in the podcast version of this, is how do we evolve? Like, where do you start with that? If that's somewhere that you want, if that's something you want to do in your life, how do you start that? And what does that process look like? So I'm really glad that we're starting off. You're the first interview I've had of this season. So I'm glad we're starting it off with this, this conversation of evolution that really starts within. And in that space is self love. And you can't really start to evolve if you haven't really worked on the self love piece. Like, it is really difficult. So thank you for having this conversation with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Like, I am much gratitude to you and your platform. Like, it is truly an honor that you even thought of me, to ask me. And so I'm always grateful to share this time and platform with you.
Girl, of course. That, like I said, every time I see the pink, I know it's you. And I honestly make that association between you, pink, and self love, like those three. And which is why I invited you to the podcast. 'Cause I kept seeing your content. I was like, this is a conversation we have to have. Like, this conversation of self love. And where has that journey taken you?
Mhm.
So, in the two like job slash roles that you have right now, is there a lesson that each of them have taught you so far that you feel like everyone should know? Like, it unlocked a key that you were like, ah, yeah, but like only through going through the process of being in that job or that role would you have figured that out? Whether that was like the applying process, whether it's like the day to day of the job itself, but like what that taught you about yourself or life or anything.
Um, I guess I might have two things.
Okay.
First is to trust yourself and trust the process. Both in both spaces, I have been on this journey of self trust, like, because that's a part of self love, is trusting yourself. Um, I'm like learning to trust myself and what I bring to the table, trust who I am, and trust myself enough to show up as who I am, in any space, including a workspace, but also to trust the process. And um, what I mean by that is we get so caught up in um, quick gratification. Like we want everything now, especially in this age of social media. Like everything is supposed to happen when we want it to happen, but that's not how life works. Social media got us thinking that things are just supposed to happen just like that, just because we see other people's journey, but you can't compare your journey to someone else's journey. Um,
Mm,
Also, in trusting the process, you got to have a plan, because you can't just be out here and it's like, oh, I'm winging it and I'm trusting the process. Well, what process are you trusting?
mm. That's a good point.
So, like, trust yourself and trust the process. And the other one is, don't be afraid to demand your value, your worth,
Mm,
in the workplace, in your personal life, in your business. Like, don't be afraid to speak up for yourself, to advocate for yourself, to know what you're worth and stand on what you believe you're worth. Um, Even if other people don't agree, like, just because they don't agree, that does not make it law. It's not law. Like, law is what you believe and feel about yourself. Um,
mm,
as long as it's healthy. Yeah, as long as it's healthy, because the negative things that we feel about the insecurities, that's not law. That's not law. So, but learn to be okay, or demand your value. Have the courage to demand your value and your worth. And command a room, command a space. So those are the two things that I've learned, because I've been at my 9 to 5 for 4.5 years now, and it has that within itself, like, workplaces, your career, that's a journey within itself. And
mm.
if you allow yourself to, you grow and learn and become and heal, even heal, through the workplace, depending on the type of work you do, though. So yeah.
That makes sense. No, I agree. Definitely, there's like so many spaces in which you learn and you grow, like the workspace, your relationship space, personal spaces. So I definitely get that, which is why I kind of was curious what your jobs have taught you or what like your roles in life have taught you. And those are really good lessons, because trusting the process, I feel like we see that advertising everywhere, but nobody really talks about like, what does that really mean though? And I love how you said like you have to actually have a plan to do that, because like it can't just be floating out in the ether, trusting the process. Like things won't really work out that way. And then you'll be frustrated that the process didn't work, but there was never a plan with the process. I really like
I learned that the hard way. Like, I learned, and I actually heard that from, I think, the person who asked me what has been my greatest pain point. I think she said to trust, you got to have a process in order to trust the process. But in my
that.
just from experiencing that, I'm like, well, dang, this is why I haven't been growing, or this is why I'm not where I want to be, because I'm ultimately creating a life that I love. But I'm like, well, what is the issue? Like, why am I not progressing? And it's like, well,
Mhm.
since you don't have a process to trust, so what are you actually trusting? Like, so that has been my experience, even with Maurica's catalog. So I was just creating content, but like not necessarily having a purpose for that content. But now I have
Mm.
a purpose for my content.
So, how this might be a tricky question. So, if there's no like answer to it, that's totally fine too.
Hmm.
Between the time, like, because you said you learned this the hard way, right? So, I assume that means that there was a period where you either didn't have a plan or didn't trust the process. The process of learning how to trust the process. How did you like work through that? You know what I mean? Because I know trusting the process doesn't come immediately, especially if you're not seeing the results immediately that you want to see in whatever it is that you're working on or whatever it is that you're doing or wherever it is that you're applying. So, how did you figure out how to trust the process, if that makes sense? Or do
Uh,
you know?
how did I figure out how to trust the process? By creating the process first, because when you don't, when I didn't have like an actual plan, I didn't have confidence. Like, I
Mhm.
didn't believe in what I wanted to do because I did not have a process. I did not have a plan. I was just kind of just out here willy nilly with this dream in my hand. Like, this is my dream, but I like a process or plan to get there. And so I was just stuck with a dream. And I'm like, okay, I know what I want and this is what I want, but I don't know how to get there. And I'm like, okay, it's up to me. I don't have a blueprint, so it's up to me to create that. Um,
Mm.
so just creating a plan, praying, um, and also building confidence in myself. Because without that confidence in yourself, you won't go for it. Like, you won't move your feet. So, and I'm still learning. I have not arrived. I will say that I have not arrived. I'm still, like, every day is different for me.
Mhm.
But I've been setting up like routines. Like, I have my calendar behind me. That is my win calendar. And the win calendar is
Mm.
basically I highlight or I ask myself every day. It's supposed to be a small wins calendar. It started off as a small wins calendar where I document at least one win of the day. One, and that can be as simple as I made it through the day because today was rough, or I produced one video, I edited one video. And starting last month, back in May, I started asking myself every day, Marika, what did you produce today?
Mm.
Produce today that you can highlight on this calendar. And so the intention is that because I read the book, The 12-Week Year, and the author talks about how your actions tell the story, and your actions produce the story. And so I'm like, well, what story do I want my actions to tell for 2023? And based on that story that I want my 2023 to tell, I then creating a plan. Okay, so what am I going to do this month? Or what did I do today? Just focusing on a day by day. What did I do today that's going to get me one step closer to my overall goal, my overall dream, vision? And just having things like that around me and having like a consistent routine, a morning routine, a nightly routine, journaling, things of that nature. So systems and structures have been helping me to trust the process as well, because it's like, okay, I created the plan. We all know about creating to-do lists and not actually doing the things that's on the list.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in order to hold myself accountable, I have the win calendar, I have my routines, I use Asana, and just it also builds confidence. Being able to write those things on my calendar, being able to check things off on Asana is just like it builds confidence and it also builds trust in self. Like, okay, if I did that, I could do this tomorrow. And if I do that tomorrow, I could do it again the next day. And you're building that consistency and one step in front of the other. It's a day by
Mhm.
day, step by step journey. And that has helped me. And not scrolling so much on social media because you get into comparing yourself to other people,
Oh my
and
god, yeah.
that just it fucks with your mental. So those are some
Okay.
of the things that I've done to learn how to trust the process.
That's super, super helpful. Especially, I don't know if this is already a thing. This win calendar, I feel like that sounded like a piece of merchandise to me. I don't know if that's a real thing though already, but I feel like that'd be super helpful for a lot of people to be able, the idea of just like taking that intentional time to address at least one win, and like I think a lot of the time, especially today, you want to do like a gajillion wins, you want to be like, I did 12 things today, but not every day is like that. So
Yeah.
just giving the space for one, I feel like is a really beautiful and simple concept. So if that is a piece of merchandise, let me know because I might be a customer.
Write that down. Like, what do you think? What
I
are
love
you doing? Thank you for saying that because I'm like, I didn't even think about that. I'm just like, just get a dry erase board, but I can be so much more. I can create something more intentional and purpose.
that. I love that. And even what you said about scrolling on social media, I've been noticing that lately too. That as soon as I wake up in the morning, if I check social media first, it's not always that I have a bad day, but I usually just don't have a good day though. Like it'll just be off or lukewarm. My head's just kind of in a disturbed I don't know. It just and I was talking to somebody about it the other day, and I was like, I feel like it's because when you open social media, especially that early in the morning, you could open it and the first slide be, somebody you aspire to. It also could be something about a shooting, 3 states away. It also could be like an advertising for water hydration packet. Like it's so many, and it's too much to start the day. So I've noticed that if I don't look at social media for the first hour, my mindset and my mental health is just better throughout the day. And it doesn't even if I'm having like an intense day, it just becomes less aggressive. Like usually I'm able to work through them a little bit better as opposed to the days that I look at social media first. Then I end up getting more emotional or frustrated if I'm having an off day. Yeah.
Do you have a morning routine?
So I do, but it's changing. And that is really, I haven't found what the new groove is. And that's what's been kind of difficult for me is it doesn't feel consistent yet. Like my mornings aren't always the same and my nights aren't always the same right now. So like some days they start earlier than others. Some days I don't have enough time to do them. But I know that's more of a time management thing. Like if I kind of restructured my time, I'd be able to make space for a morning routine every morning. But some days I oversleep because I stay up too late at night, and then I don't have to jump straight into work, and then I don't really have time for it. And then yeah, so it's a work in progress.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. But that is really helpful, and hearing what it's done for you definitely not only for myself, but I'm sure somebody else out there too can resonate with that. And those are some like tangible things that you could start doing to try to get to that place. Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. So I know we kind of talked about it a little bit before. You said people usually think that pink is your favorite color, and it's not your favorite color. But is there anything else that you feel like people commonly misunderstand about you or about Maurica's catalog or about self love, any of those three?
Um, Honestly, I don't know. I don't really know. I think sometimes, and this could just be my own insecurities, but sometimes think people don't fully grasp the concept of Marcus catalog and what I'm trying to do with Marcus catalog.
Hmm.
Then I'm like, maybe that's up to me as in my marketing and my branding to continuously express that um, and demonstrate that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing. I try not to, because I used to get caught up in what other people thought about me or my me being on social media so much. And there were people in my life who did misunderstand my love for social media and why I always had my phone out getting pictures and footage and things of that nature. But it's a part of what I do. It's
Mhm.
something that I love. And so I I have removed myself from those people because it was impacting me mentally and also emotionally because I'm like, "Oh, they just don't get it," but it was also causing me to doubt myself. But now I'm
Mm.
around people who are just like my cousin, she be on me. She like, "Sis, post the content." Like, "What's up with this? Where's this at? Where's the content for that?" Like, she does not play, but she's someone that gets it. So it's like, or maybe I just need to be around people who actually gets it, gets me, and get where I'm going. But I also know it's not meant for everybody to understand. As long as I
Mhm.
understand it and I'm confident in it, that's what matters. Because Kanye West, I know people are iffy about Kanye. I'm still a Kanye fan. Sorry, not sorry, but like his documentary Genius, and it inspired me so much because I saw how people kept putting him in this producer box, and he,
Mhm.
but I can rap, like, and the shit he had to go through to get to that stage of being just to get his foot in the door of rapping. His foot was already in the door, but they boxed him in. It's crazy how your foot can be in the door, but you can still be boxed in.
Mm.
And they boxed him, but he believed in himself. He just like He went for it and continued to go for it. He didn't doubt himself. And maybe he did internally doubt himself sometimes or wrestle with doubt sometimes, but it didn't stop him from going for it. And so that inspired me. And I think about that often. It's like nobody believed in Kanye's rapping abilities. They just kept putting him in this producer box. And now look. Now look. Like
For
look what
real.
he's done. So it ain't meant for everybody to get. You just gotta make
Mm.
a believer.
I love that. I love that story. Kanye also, I actually agree with your unpopular opinion. I'm a huge Kanye stan, even though I know he definitely needs to, reflect on some of the choices. I'm sure his PR team is like having an emotional breakdown every other day. But I love what he does just in his music, in his professional journey, even though he makes mistakes. He's a human. But I watched that documentary too on like the process of him becoming who he is now, and like seeing that as well, just seeing him come into himself, and he never wavered from trusting his abilities, like no matter who told him. And it was like really big, really respectful people in the industry being like, nah dude, you can't do it, and he just was like, fine, I'll go elsewhere.
That part.
And I
That
loved seeing that, like the determination. And now he's gone beyond rapping and he goes into fashion now and he wants to go into other things. And he built the life that he knew that he could build. And I love that you said that never let anybody or anything disturb that. Like he saw his vision and didn't let anybody
mhm.
dictate that vision. Okay. I love that. I feel the vibe. And
Part.
that's something I'm trying to come into as well.
What?
Just the trusting the vision and seeing that vision and not letting it be deterred by anything, like any circumstance, any individual, anything, and following that vision wholeheartedly. I feel like Kanye, the funny thing is when you said that about wrestling with doubt, I feel like he never really shows it. If he did, like even if
Yeah.
he did feel it, he doesn't really talk about that. And
That's
that's
why I
something.
said maybe he did wrestle with it and just didn't show it.
Yeah. I kind of wish he did though, because that then like right now in this space, that's something I'm trying to work through, and it would be helpful to have people talk more about wrestling with that and how they worked through it than just kind of pretending it isn't a part of that process.
Well, that's what Maurica's catalog is here to do. That is where
Mm,
I struggle with this sometimes because it's like no one wants to show the process. That's why people. That's where they got the idea of overnight celebrities. Because like nobody really shows the process or documents the process. And like one of my segments for Maurica's catalog is Cali Love Diaries. It stands for Create a Life You Love. So Cali
mm,
Love Diaries, and that's just getting those real raw moments and behind the scenes moments of, building Maurice's catalog, creating a life I love. Like, what does it even look like to create a life I love? But sometimes it's hard to produce that content because I question if it's needed. And so hearing
mm,
you say that, I'm like, okay, so maybe it is needed. Then having conversations with people outside of social media, I'm like, sis, you should just do it. Like, and the people will find you.
hmm. I agree. It's weird because social media shows a lot of highlights. So when you're trying to make content that's about life as a whole, it feels like it's almost like lost in noise a little bit because there's a lot of either like really, really messed up things or like super highlights where people are like, this is the best moment of my life or the best picture of today or whatever it is. But I've been noticing that even if like social media doesn't reflect it fully yet, that internally society is like craving realness again. Realness of like talking about life experiences, realness in the relationships, realness, just like the surface level stuff is not giving for us anymore.
Mhm.
I think like maybe early 2000s we all were able to like kind of pretend it did, but now people are really having to sit with who they are and what it is that they care about and what type of decisions that they're making, and only talking about highlight reels isn't life. And I think we all know that. So, girl, keep doing your content though. We need it. Like, humanity needs it. I know that sounds hella dramatic, but it's true.
Thank you. I will.
You
I
are
will.
very welcome. And the people will come. They are coming. It
Yeah.
is in its process.
It is.
Mm, I love that. So in this new stage that you're in right now, growing and evolving, what have you learned about yourself? That
Oof. Ugh.
I know
Were you
that's a
about to
big one.
add something to that? What
No,
have I
ma'am,
learned
that's all
about
you.
myself? Ooh, I've learned a lot about myself. I don't even know where to start. My gosh. Um, I have learned that I am capable of creating a life I love.
Mm,
I have what it takes to do the damn thing. Like I
mm,
have what it takes, and I don't have to ask for permission. Like that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned is that I don't have to ask for anybody's permission to be me, to do me, and to do what the fuck I want to do with my life. uh, I have also I've also learned how to speak up, um,
mm,
to advocate for myself, to set boundaries, and that it's okay to set boundaries. Um, I'm still working on my communication. Um, yeah, I'm still working on that, but I've learned that that is something that I do need to work on. So there's
mhm,
just so much I'm learning about, childhood trauma and how that impacts you. It impacts you as an adult, especially if you don't work through that trauma.
mm,
Um, and so learning about that and learning how to work through that. Um, I'm just learning a lot. Is I'm really locked in and tapped in with myself. Like I've been learning, or I've learned how to find my center. You know how we say like
mm,
I feel off, and I'll have
mhm,
those moments where it's like I feel off, and I know why, but I've learned how to tap in with myself, to be in tune with self and with God, and figure out why I might feel off and how to get back balanced and centered. So those are some of the biggest things that I've learned about myself, and it has not been a cakewalk learning those things. It's just like actually seeing your shit, and that's one of the things that I've added to Maurica's catalog branding is like um learning how to see your shit, unpack your shit, and heal from your shit, because we all have our shit. And when I
mhm,
mean my shit is like we all have our fears, our doubts, our insecurities, our trauma, just all of the things that throws us off our game, or where we feel like we're not centered, or that holds us back. And so it's hard to face yourself, especially the unhealed parts of you.
mm,
Um, it's been a journey, but I'm grateful for the journey, and I've learned so much about myself, and I'm still learning because, like I said, we're as humans, we're always evolving, and there's always something to unpack, and just being in community with people, like people teach you a lot about yourself as well. So
mm. I agree. 100%. I agree. Oh, I love that for you. I'm glad that you're in this period of learning and growth and how it's helping you understand yourself and the world better and how that's ultimately feeding into Maurica's catalog story and its message and the value that you're bringing other people is these things that you're learning in that process. And I know from experience that the things that you're talking about are things that people need to see and need to understand. And so you kind of living it out an example is a beautiful thing. Definitely super helpful.
it's
Definitely.
hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard because you're like, are people judging me? Like, what are people thinking? Like, is this good content? Because analytics. So one of my things that I'm working on is to not get so caught up on analytics,
Mm,
the views and the shares, and I'm like, I'm really living life, and I have it on my calendar as well. 1%. I'm living life by the 1%. Like,
mm,
get better by 1%. Reach one, teach one. If I reach one person, whether that's from sending an email out with my newsletter, or posting a YouTube video, or posting a TikTok or a reel, if I were just reach one person, I'm cool. Like,
I feel that.
so
It's
But
hard for sure. I definitely get you, especially the business side being tied to it. Like when you hope for or want your livelihood to be tied into something, and that something is also very real and personal and vulnerable to you in a way. Like
Mhm,
intertwining those two is really hard, but I definitely feel you on that, and trying not to get caught up in the analytics and not being its own process, because to an extent you keep it in mind, and also to an extent you're like, this, it's not about the numbers per se,
mhm,
it's more about the value that you're giving, the way that you're serving your community,
mhm.
and the people will come from that. So I get you. Okay. I'd love to hear it. Okay. So, for self love specifically, what does unconditional self love to you look like on a daily basis, like for you in your life?
Unconditional self love. It looks like grace. And
Mhm.
when I tell you I'm so tired of that word, saying give yourself grace, but it's so true. Like unconditional self love looks like grace. Like
Mm,
giving yourself grace when you feel like you fucked up, giving yourself grace when you just need to rest and you don't feel like creating or working, like because the body resting is an act of self-love too.
mm,
um so and just I would say if I had to choose one word, I would say grace.
okay.
That's the first word that comes to mind when I think of unconditional self-love, is grace.
I love that. Okay. Grace. That's something we all need to give ourselves a little bit more of about everything, especially the perfectionist leaning people, because that's really hard to let go.
Yeah. It's so hard, but it's possible. It's definitely possible with routines and consistency.
Okay. Okay. So, with grace, how do you tend to or take care of your mental and emotional and physical and spiritual needs? Like how does, I guess, grace intertwine with that? And how do you just go about taking care of those areas in general?
Okay, so I share this on my platforms all the time. I have one question that I go to for every area that you just mentioned.
Okay.
What do I need in this moment? Like really stopping. If I feel like I'm off or in a weird space, like mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, like physically listening to my body and asking myself, what do I need in this moment? And actually stopping to listen to my body and seeing, do I need to stretch? Do I need to go work out? Do I need food? Do I need water? Am I dehydrated? So really stopping to listen to my body mentally. What do I need in this moment? Do I need to do yoga? Do I need to meditate? Do I need to laugh? Do I need to pray? Do I need to journal? Do I need to talk to someone? Do I need to be around people?
Mm,
And so forth. Just like, and I call it my personal toolkit, like my self love toolkit. And in each of those categories, I have the different things that I just can pull from. Like it is not a physical box. It's just like it's in the clouds. It's in the cloud, or it's in the fro. It's in the fro. It's like, what do I need in this moment? And giving myself what I need in that moment. And that's what that grace looks like. That's what the love looks like. And ultimately that's what healing looks like. It's just like day by day figuring out what do I need in this moment, and
mm,
loving myself enough to give myself to listen and give myself what I feel like I need in that moment. If I start doing something, like for instance, if I had started journaling the other day and I stopped me a journal, like this is not it. So I went to something else. Like I probably think I started coloring. And coloring was what I needed in that moment. So um
okay.
yeah, that's what that looks like.
Okay. Giving yourself the room in each of those spaces to ask that question, what do you need in that, what do you need at this moment?
Mhm,
I love that. That's because it's so simple, it's easy to remember and it's simple, but it's applicable to all of those areas.
mhm.
Have you always felt a strong sense of self-love, or I think you kind of were like addressing that a little bit earlier, but has this always been around, or is it something that you feel like you had and then lost and then relearned, or was there a period that you just didn't have it at all and then you're coming back into it now?
You know, there would had you asked me this maybe like a year ago, I would say that I didn't have it. Um, but I think I looking back and as I've, like I said, unpacking childhood trauma and learning more about myself and learning more about this healing journey, I'm like, I did have self-love. And even my therapist said, she like, I believe you do love yourself. And my sister, I've been knowing her since I was 3 years old. So I call her my sister. And she's like, you love yourself. You've always loved yourself. And I think for me, it wasn't the love that I was lacking, it was the acceptance.
Okay.
It's a component of self-love. It's like accepting yourself. And so I loved myself, but I didn't always accept myself. And you ask like, did I lose it and get it back? And I think there are levels to self-love. Like it's the surface level, and then you go deeper and you unpack it. But like I said, I think self-love it's a life journey. Because no one should ever stop loving themselves. Or fall out of love with themselves. And I know people fall out of love with people, and people get divorces and breakups and things of that nature, but one should never break up with themselves. One should never divorce themselves, and one should never lose themselves.
Mm.
Um, and so self love it's a life journey. So I think that I thought that I didn't have it because I didn't have the acceptance component, and I struggled with the self esteem component, which are these are all components of self love and what makes up self love. And so I would say acceptance and esteem are the thing, or confidence are the things that I wrestle with more. But I thought it was self love.
Mm.
Learning more about the components of self love, I'm like, no, you've loved yourself. You just had a hard time accepting yourself and being yourself in all atmospheres, and then being confident in who you are, which I think acceptance and confidence go hand in hand, because as you accept yourself more, you're able to step into that and just be that in the world. So I think it was more of those things.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Do you feel like something prompted you to not have that acceptance piece? Like, and if you don't want to talk about that, because I know that's a little deeper and a little bit more personal, but like if something prompted the loss of that self acceptance, or did it just kind of, was it just kind of like a society thing and it just wasn't really, now you're relearning that that is a piece or component of self love that you need to have as well?
I think it's a mixture of things. Definitely society. Because as a black woman, I think society teaches us not to love ourselves.
Mm.
Um, as black people in general, because I don't want to leave the men out. I think for men too, but as a people, society teaches us to not love ourselves, or that black is bad or wrong. I remember I was watching a TV I was sitting on my grandmother's floor. I think I was in like the first or second grade. And I'll never forget this moment. I was watching TV, and I'm very observant. And I was watching the commercials, and I was seeing how in all of the commercials was always a bunch of white people. They looked happy and wealthy and just, happy. And I was like, I wish I was white.
Mm.
And my grandmother that's what she wanted to what? This black and I'm proud speech, and it went in one ear and out the other.
Hmm.
And that was a moment that taught me that I shouldn't love who I am or where I come from, because it ain't right. Um,
Okay.
I would definitely say society, and a mixture of other things that I don't really want to talk about. But yeah,
No, that makes sense. I really resonate with that in a lot of different ways, which is why I kind of asked. That was more for, I mean, for everyone too, because the point of this podcast is to talk about our real stories and what we're learning from them so that it can help everyone else grow too. And like we can all grow together. But I had a very similar experience in childhood in terms of just really having kind of an identity crisis in that way and not realizing how much that trailed into my adulthood, you know, the what the images and the message that we saw, or even the conversations that I had with people as a Black person, as a Black woman, the things that they said, you know, in the moment, even if you know that they aren't, you know, it's kind of small, like watching a lot of commercials with like predominantly Caucasian people, or like never really seeing Black people in certain types of positions or certain types of awards and stuff like that. In the moment, you think it's very small, but then as an adult, you start to register how much that took away from the opportunity to kind of give you a space to identify with them. You know, like identify with the happy, successful, rich person in the commercial, you know, that identify with standards of beauty as well, and seeing yourself in people who are quote unquote like socially accepted and socially celebrated. So I really feel you on that and how that affects your self acceptance and
Mhm.
confidence. But I love how you said that that necessarily didn't take away from your self love, and it took you some time to realize that like the components of it and how that all played into your self love. That's beautiful. Okay. Okay. I love the story, and this is one of my favorite conversations or just like topics to have like a reflection about self love, because without it, I don't think we realize how dull life is. You know, like you can't. The other day, I was talking to my boyfriend actually, and we were talking about, you know, our needs, both of us individually. And one thing he said to me that really stood out to me was, if I don't take the space to love myself, then I will expect it from him. And I think that's goes in all spaces. Like if you don't take the space to love yourself, you'll expect it, your job to fill that void, or like people to fill that void. And I realized that you can't fill that void with anyone else besides yourself, which is what self love is for. You know, like if you try and fill it with other things or other people or other ideas, then it will always be unquenched, and you'll
Mhm.
never fully be satisfied, or you'll never fully be happy.
That's a fact. That is a fact.
So, how do you love the people who are closest to you in your life unconditionally, and how do they love you in a way that kind of like reinforces this self-love? Because I know for my boyfriend and I, kind of like we were just talking about, one of the things that I think makes our relationship as good for me as it does is the fact that we reinforce the fact that there's obviously romantic love, but there's importance in both of our individual self-love. So
Mhm.
I know like in friendships too, that's relevant. And even in family relationships, I know that's really important to have, you know, healthy senses of self-love. So is there a way that, you know, you found a healthy way to set boundaries, but also love other people and also kind of communicate what you need out of love?
You know, I am still learning how to do that.
Okay.
I went through last year and the year. What was the year? 2023. 2021 and 2022 were really rough years for me and really dark years, partially because I did go through 4 friendship breakups back to back.
Oh.
And it taught me a lot about myself, because at first I was just blaming them. Like it's their fault. And it's like, no, I had a role to play in that as well. And one of those things is not enforcing my boundaries, not enforcing my expectations. But there were moments where I did express myself and I tried to express my boundaries, and I felt like they went unheard.
Mm.
And so I am still learning, honestly. Um, And I always thought the saying, treat people how you want to be treated. And I don't really agree with that much anymore. It's treat people how they want to be treated. Um, or love
Okay.
people how they want to be loved, because everyone's love language is different. Like
Mhm.
my love language might be acts of service, and somebody else's love language is, physical touch. And I'm trying to do acts of service, and they're like, I need physical touch, like I need a hug or something. And so it's just like trying to learn, be more mindful, but also be more attentive to what people need, the people in my life, like what they need, and showing up for them in the way that they need and they receive, as long as it's comfortable for me. And if it's not, just expressing that. Like, so that is something that I'm working on. It's like
Okay.
as I grow and learn more about myself and this journey, I'm learning how to be. I think I'm learning how to be a better friend, and I was supposed to say community member, I mean community member too, and family member to my people. I just want to show up for them in a better way. Um, and so that's something that I've been mindful of and practicing. And they probably feel like I show up for them fine, but as I've grown and learned more about this journey and just being in therapy, I'm like, but there's a better way to do this. And
Mm.
so, um, I think I set the tone for a lot of my family, and I set the example for a lot of my family members. And so I want to make sure that I am doing it properly and not chaotically or with toxicity. And so
Mm.
um, I'm still learning. I should say that I'm still learning.
Okay. That's fair. We're all always still learning. I'm sorry to hear that though about the friendship breakups. I know you said like, both parties usually have like a part in breakups anyways, but I know friendship breakups can be really, really painful. So I can't imagine, regardless, that that was easy at all. So I'm sorry to hear that you went
Thank
through
you.
that. And hopefully it, shed some of the old relationships to create space for newer and healthy ones for both you and the other people involved.
It definitely did.
I'm glad to hear that for sure.
Thank you.
Of course. I know you've mentioned a few times throughout this conversation about therapy. How do you feel like therapy played into the building of your self acceptance and self love?
OMG. OMG, man. What? Therapy play a major role. Like major.
Okay.
Um, I don't want to say that therapy was this did all of the work, because I've done the work too, but therapy played a major role, especially my current therapist. Because I've been through 3 or 4 therapists, and since
Okay.
2019, I started going to therapy in 2019.
Okay.
Um, and from there, I tell people therapy is like dating. Like the first therapist may not always be the right fit, and
Mm-hmm.
um I've hopped around to multiple therapists until I found the right fit, and I've been with this therapist for like a year and a half now. And therapy has taught me a lot about help me to see myself, to understand myself. It's given me strategies, the self-love toolkit. Like that was from my therapist. That was a
Mm.
tactic from my therapist. Like, and now I'm sharing that with other people. And so it's like so much of who I've become and the things that I talk about in my content and in my brand is a result of the things that I've learned from therapy. And so this new woman that people be seeing, especially people who've known me practically all my life or for a while now, like this new me is like a lot of it is a result of therapy.
Mm.
Because I show up in therapy, but I also do the work after therapy, because my therapist, she gives me homework assignments, not at in every session, but in some of our sessions, I've received homework assignments. and I actually do the homework assignments.
Mhm.
When people say that therapy doesn't work, it's like, one, you either haven't found the right therapist for you and what you need. Two, that therapist may not specialize in the things that you need help in, because there are levels to therapy. I don't know if people know
Mhm.
that. There are levels to therapy. And then three, actually, are you even showing up? Like, are you being, because you got to be open in therapy. It's like, I am, I don't want to say I'm closed off now. I'm not closed off, but I become more private, but I'm not as private in therapy. Like, I open up in therapy, but like lately I've just not been I haven't been having these therapy conversations with, my loved ones and things like that, just because I've learned that, yes, they can give great advice and things of that nature, but a lot of times people speak from their own experience and their own trauma. And
Mhm.
that doesn't necessarily means that that is the right way for you or the right thing to do for you. And so, um, I don't know. Therapy is it. Like, that ain't the only factor of my healing, but therapy has definitely played a huge role in the woman that I've become and continuing to become. So I highly encourage therapy. I always say I encourage therapy, but I know it's not always, you know, a resource for people, like easily accessible for people. But find some free therapy, something like,
Mhm.
I think is everybody could use therapy, even if nothing is wrong. I have days where I go in and I'm just like, I don't really have much to talk about, and or she'll ask me a question, and I'm like, oh, maybe I do have something to talk about. um, yeah.
Okay, I get that. I'm a huge, huge advocate for therapy as well. Like, trying not to be dramatic. It really did change my life as well. Like, obviously, you do the work to get yourself out of certain situations, but I really don't believe it would have been possible without the guidance of the therapist that I had before. And I'm very grateful to them for that. And I loved how you said that, everyone should try and find therapy. So in the show notes, I'm going to try and put some resources for y'all afterwards. If you're interested in therapy and just not really sure where to begin, I'm going to try and find some free resources or some beginner resources so that you can begin that journey, because it is really helpful having a third party talk to you about those things. And I really feel you on people telling you advice from
Hmm.
their experience. But that's not necessarily always applicable for what you need in that moment. And sometimes you don't even need to hear advice. Sometimes you just need to vet. Sometimes you do need guidance, but it's not really like telling you what to do. It's more of like asking you the right questions to reflect to get you to where you need to go. Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. Okay. So, like, you kind of like touched on it slash naturally transitioned to it as
Hmm.
well, which is lovely. But we have kind of reached the point of the last three questions that I have for you in this episode. Obviously, we can still keep talking if things come up in this conversation, but the ones that I had planned. And you lightly touched on it in terms of therapy helping you become the person that you are today. How do you feel like you've grown this past year, in the past 3 years, and in the past 5 years? Like, how do you feel like you've grown and changed since maybe 5 years ago to now?
Mm. What was 5 years ago? What year is this?
2023. So 2019,
Oh
18,
wow.
18, 19.
Damn. A lot has I've changed a lot. That's actually when that's the year 2018, 2019 is the year where when I started my journey, my therapy with therapy. When I started
Mm,
therapy, um, when I learned that I was depressed because I had no idea. Um,
mm,
when I learned that I was in survival mode because I had no idea. Just like in when you're in it, sometimes it's hard to see.
mm,
Like the weight gain, like I gained about 20 to 30 pounds.
mm,
And I hadn't even notice. I mean, and my clothes weren't fitting, but like when I looked in the mirror, I didn't see it. Like that's how gone I was, I guess, or depressed I was, maybe.
Mhm.
So I've grown because I'm free from those things that I was struggling with, and um, I've definitely healed and grown, and um, it's like I see myself now. Like I see myself. I'm able to recognize when I'm not myself, and I have strategies in place to, you know, become centered again and get back on track. Um,
Mm.
so I've become like I've become,
Mhm.
and continuing to become Maurica, and just thrive as Maurica, unapologetically, because I used to be apologetic about it, apologetic about my dreams, apologetic about who I am. And I haven't arrived, but I am way further than where I used to be. And so, and then I have my brand. I didn't have a brand then. I didn't have a plan, a process to trust. Um, my hair is pink. I have pink hair. I actually cut my hair. It's growing back now. Like I went on a hair love journey.
Mm.
So much has changed throughout the years and throughout those 5 years. And yeah, I've become. I've healed. I've become. I've grown. Um, I've hurt.
Mm.
I've lost, but I get back up. I've gotten back up. Um, and I'm just doing the damn thing, you know?
That's all you can do.
So yeah, and I just only hope that I continue to thrive and grow and become.
You will. Based on everything I've heard today and the process of your story, I don't see a world where you won't. I think that's intertwined into who you are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But you're the one doing the work. I'm just seeing the outside. I'm telling you the facts from outside.
Well, the validation is always awesome.
Of course.
Appreciated. So thank you.
Of course. Of course. In this growth period, can you remember the last time that you felt like you were truly or deeply inspired? I know you kind of mentioned it about watching Kanye's documentary, but is that the last time, or is there a time more recently that you feel like you were deeply inspired, or was that not the deepest of inspiration?
Deeply inspired.
Mhm.
Ooh, I don't know. I feel like I try to find inspiration in everyday life. Like that's why I go outside, engage with people. I'm trying to think about deeply inspired though. I can't think of a moment.
That's okay. We can say Kanye's documentary was the
Yeah,
last memorable time.
we'll say that. 'Cause
Okay.
that did inspire me deeply. Like just seeing his journey and how he persevered. Like, uh, and I think I always say this. I'm like, imagine if Kanye would allow, even if he even dealt with fear and self doubt. Imagine if he would have let that conquer him. Like
Mm.
if he would have submitted to those fears and those doubts and people putting him in a box, we would not know Kanye today as Kanye. We would know Kanye the producer, but we would not know Kanye the rapper, the fashion
Mm.
designer, the I don't even want to call him. He's not a politician, but like,
He tried though.
yeah,
He
but
tried.
we would not know this. We wouldn't have the hits that we have, like the albums, the greatness, the concerts, like so. That is that's something that deeply inspires me. Is like, sis, like, just imagine what you can do if you keep going.
Mm.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I love that. I'm actually going to keep repeating that to myself too. Imagine what you could do or what life could look like if you just keep going, even though you don't know what that looks. I'm sure Kanye, even if he didn't wrestle with doubt, I don't think he knew
Mm-hmm.
how big his dream would take him or like how far it could take him when he followed it. I think he knew that he'd be successful as a rapper, but I don't think he knew like
Mm-hmm.
how vast that was. And I love the idea of just keep going, imagining like, what if you trust your vision and if you keep fighting for your vision, like who knows what could happen? Like literally, who knows?
That part.
Okay.
That part.
Okay. I hope anybody who's listening, or watching today or listening can take away from this episode that
Yep.
piece. Okay. And my last question to you for this evening is how can I best support you as a friend, as, a consumer, as a viewer? What is like is there a way that I could best support you as you continue to go through this journey?
Um, just showing up. Like that's the best way to support me, just showing up. Like,
Okay.
and that looks like engaging with my content, or if you feel led to send me a word of encouragement, or
Mm,
if something about my content has inspired you, do share, because for and this isn't just for, I can't speak for other content creators, but just hearing that feedback, like, it pushes us forward. Like, it pushes me forward as a creator, as a content creator, a producer. Like, it matters. But one of my love languages is words of affirmation. So maybe that's different for another creator who may have a different love language. But one of my love languages, I really like all five of the love language, but I scored higher in one of words of affirmation is one of the ones that I scored higher in. I can't remember the other one. I had two that were tied. I can't remember the other one, but
okay.
just showing up, like sharing my content, inviting me back to do another episode. Like,
I'd
yeah,
love to. Maybe a year from now, we could do this again and kind of reflect on the growth in between now and then because I feel like I've I'm very grateful that I reached you just at like the beginning of the cusp of I feel like a huge growth change for you and your brand. So it'll be cool to come back and talk to you again, maybe when you're in your kind of Kanye state, Kanye phase, and talk to you about the journey
that
after that.
I receive it.
But I can definitely do that. I can definitely show up and I can definitely support you and your content. And I mean, outside of just, trying to support you as like somebody that I know, your content is something that very deeply resonates with me and is a journey that I'm personally trying to walk on myself is relearning self-love again and relearning self-acceptance. And even you pointing out today that you felt like you never lost self-love, but you struggled more with self-acceptance is a thing that I think I'm also struggling with. And I only learned that from having this conversation with you. So I will absolutely be an authentic supporter of Maurica's catalog. And in general, if anybody else too wants to support Maurica on this journey, I will have a link to all of her social medias and her website in the show notes so that you can also learn how to walk on your journey of self love and support her. Yeah,
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
of course.
How
Thank
can I
you.
support? I know this is your show, but how can I support you as well?
Oh, thank you.
I'm
um,
in the community, so yeah. How can I support you?
I think you did it today without really, you've been doing it actually without really knowing that you were doing it. I think encouraging people to listen to your episode is really helpful, giving grace. I know you and I were having, our little back and forth with the schedulings and things. And this, I honestly was very like nervous, excited today to do our episode because I have not recorded one in a while. Like last year, back to back to back, I did a lot of them, like maybe 10 episodes with different people. And then I don't know, the self acceptance piece came in. And I think that intertwined with self love, and I kind of backed down from it because I got either scared or like just too perfectionisty about it, and I was worried too much about the wrong things, where I really just love this platform. I love talking to people and asking good questions, and I've been reminded of that recently. So you being the first person I talked to this season and having the conversation that we had has been supportive for me. It has helped push me forward to be like, keep recording, Sachi. We have no idea what's going to happen, but keep recording. Keep authentically being yourself. Keep asking people good questions. Keep supporting people on their personal growth journeys. So you did it without even knowing you were doing
Oh
it.
wow, awesome. Well, thank you for even having me and allowing me to do that.
Of course, anytime. I will hopefully have you again next year. We could see you in the Kanye phase. But I'm
Yes,
glad we did this today, though.
me too. Much gratitude. Much gratitude.
Okay. Well, I know we've been here for a minute. It's been like an hour.
Cook my food.
Yeah, it's dinner time for me too.
Yes.
But thank you again for your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll probably shoot you a message or DM on Instagram, anyways, after this.
Okay.
And then for anybody listening to this later, in most likely the Spotify version, you can find this episode on Twitch temporarily for 2 weeks. I know every 2 weeks it makes videos disappear on YouTube and on Spotify. Yeah.
Alrighty.
All righty. Have a good rest of your evening.
All right, you too. Thank you so much. And sending love and light to you and your community and your audience. Sending our love and light, love and light, love and light.
Thank you so much. You too, girl. You too.
All right, girl. Enjoy your night.
Thank you. I will.
Alrighty. So do I just push leave?
I think so. My computer's like lagging, but yes.
Okay. I'm like, I don't know how to work this thing. Okay. All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Let me. All right, y'all. That was fun. I have enjoyed this stream with y'all today. My computer, I know it was lagging. I'm going to work on that. You see how I'm sweating right now? It's too hot. It's too hot. But I'm back. I will probably do a stream in the near future to talk about why I disappeared, but I've missed you. I have thought about you very often, so don't think you were forgotten. Yeah. It was great interviewing Maurica today, getting my feet wet again. And I'm looking forward to some of the other interviews and conversations that we're going to have this season. Thank you to Laura, if you were listening the whole time. I see there's one viewer in here. So thank you, Fran. Thank you. We'll be back for another episode real soon. But for now, enjoy the rest of your evening. And we back, baby. We back.